This episode of the No Name Film Show Thingy is brought to you by Live Lots from the Foster Gallery. Live Lots is an online marketplace at the Foster Gallery that provides one-time runs in monthly increments of low-cost artwork that can be bought and shipped directly to your home. Find out more at www.thefostergallery.com. All right, hi everybody. This is Matt Foster with Kevin Walunas. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
Good. And
Good.
This is good. I'm glad you're doing good.
Yeah.
And this is the latest edition of the No Name Film Show Thingy. And today we're going to be talking about digital film versus traditional film. I guess is the right. What's the proper name?
I guess it'd be digital versus traditional. Yeah.
Traditional. Okay. And really what we think of that and what the future, I guess, lies in, and what the pros and cons of each media type would be. And then their relevance in the day and age that we live in, right? I mean, so I guess a way we can start that conversation would be, first of all, clearly defining the difference between the two.
Yeah.
So film, traditional film, which is what has been used for over 100 years, is what, celluloid and a strip? I mean, basically?
Pretty much. Yeah, it's a chemical process. That's pretty much, for anybody who's not really into chemistry, all you really need to know. If film is, you shoot film, light exposes the piece of film, and you develop it using a set of chemicals, and then, now it's digitally scanned, and that's how you edit it, but
it's the traditional, just like photography process.
Yes, it's just really fast moving photos.
Right. And this will, not to get too technical, but this will be part of the debate later, is what is the frame rate of a traditional film? Like if you're shooting, because really when we get into digital, we start talking about the high defness and all that stuff. When you're shooting on a film camera, how many frames per second are you usually shooting?
24
for a professional film. Okay. And then
it's the same with digital too.
Oh,
but
you
can film faster. Okay, I will preface this. So normal frame rate is 24 frames a second. That's what you see movies at. Live TV's done at 30 frames a second. That's why live TV looks a little different.
Okay.
That's a digital thing anyways. But when you have slow motion and what people call high speed photography, that's when you get to like faster frame rates. And you can do that in both digital and film.
Okay. All right.
But you're just making it go faster, so when you can actually slow down the motion to 24 frames.
Right. So when you're playing
smooth,
it at normal,
so it's not like they're doing the robot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's not like the flipboard look.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Okay. And then digital is where you're capturing the imagery directly to a chip.
You're capturing it on a sensor, a digital sensor that is saving it to some sort of hard drive device.
Right, and that's similar to like your digital cameras that people know and love today.
Yep, your iPhone theoretically is a digital film camera.
Right. Okay. So when, not like the exact date or anything, but when did we start seeing, like, what was the first digital type movie?
The first digital type movie?
Was there a milestone movie that everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's all digital. Let's go see how it is"? Was there something like that, or did the industry more slowly kind of start accepting digital in different ways?
It's been a slow transition. I find, you'd find a lot of them were done kind of combined for a while. Especially in the late '90s, even early 2000s. I feel like one of the movies that was really noted for doing something completely digital was The Social Network when it came out.
Okay.
That was one of the first movies they really shot on all reds.
So this is a really contemporary thing. This is not something going back 20 years. This is So fully digital movies are a very, very recent event.
Yeah. You could argue the first fully digital movies are, like Pixar movie kind of things, animated movies.
Yeah.
But, you have a lot of, there was a whole movement out of the early 90s. Forget what they're called. Was it Dogma 95? I can't remember the movement. But there were a bunch of European filmmakers who basically started filming all of their movies off of handheld cameras, which they're mentioned in Side by Side, I
Oh
believe.
yeah, yeah. Well, we should mention that
Yeah.
the documentary Side by Side,
Yes,
which you have been kicking me in the ass to go watch for a
I have.
while, and I finally recently had the night to do it, and it
Yeah,
was fantastic. We will definitely be putting a link to it for everybody because it's a fantastic film.
it is a really, if you're into any, like, if you are interested in how films are made, what the argument is between film and digital,
Yeah.
it's a very, very fascinating
It is,
documentary.
and I do like the fact that they did not, like any good documentary, they did not try to make a pitch for one or the other.
Yes,
They were really
it's
pitting
neutral,
they were pitting
straight down the line.
the interviews of the industry professionals against each other and
Yes,
letting the viewer kind of, based on what movies they knew, kind of make their own opinion, which is great. That's a
yes.
great way to do it. So, anyways, with that said, um, what were you going to bring up? That brought up the side by side.
Well, and just to give you kind of a general idea of just how digital's kind of treated now versus when it started. Like, you have a lot of, there wasn't, you couldn't get a real 35 millimeter look on digital for the longest time. And some people argue you still can't. I don't believe that. Like, I can still tell the difference between digital and film.
Okay.
To a trained eye, you can see the difference.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to IMAX. Like, if something's shot actually with an IMAX camera,
Yeah.
you can really see the difference. If anybody saw any of the Batmans for Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises, and in real IMAX, not the fake IMAX, some of the movie theaters tend to have, you can actually, especially for the Dark Knight Rises, for that opening scene, they shot some of the scenes in full IMAX. You'd see it basically go from, it almost looked like letterbars for a second, and then the scene is the whole screen. Like, there's the definition in it is ridiculous. We're getting really, I think actually my friend Michael, I was talking to him about this documentary after we both watched it, and basically, we've gotten really, really good at developing film now.
Yep.
We're pretty much there's nothing else we can really do. It's a chemical process, so there's only so much you can do.
Right.
Whereas, you got Moore's Law, which technology doubles itself every 6 months, theoretically. We're still at the very, very, very early days. This is a very interesting time to be a filmmaker, and especially a filmmaker my age, in my opinion, too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I'm probably one of like two people I've ever met, who actually knows who shot film, and that's just by pure luck because my dad knows how.
Right.
So you have a lot, as you probably saw in the documentary. We're not really, it's a documentary, so that I don't feel bad spoiling anything necessarily.
Right.
But
Yeah. You're not giving away a plot twist.
you saw some of the older filmmakers in it, and not even that much older. Most of them are my dad's age, maybe a little bit older, but they're talking about how digital is killing everything and all this stuff. How digital can be a kind of a bad thing, and my generation's kind of the opposite of that.
Well, that's actually, to me, that was one of the more interesting points of the film, is that, and as a painter, again, not a filmmaker but a painter,
Yeah.
you always have that resistance of a new material or a new medium, right? And then at some point, the guys who were masters of the old one would dabble in it but would not fully embrace it. But there was eventually a generation that would say, you know what, screw the old one. I'm not only ditching, I'm not trying to make the new one feel like the old one. I'm just embracing the new one.
Yes.
And there was an aspect of that to that documentary. It was kind of minor, if you ask me, compared to like some of the big wigs of film talking.
Yes.
But there were some of the more indie filmmakers that were kind of like, not only do I not, and this was the most interesting part to me, not only do I not care that it doesn't look like, film, but I want to start making films that inherently address the digital filmmaking process.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's the most fascinating part of it to me, because now you're actually turning the chapter to, it's going from and if I was to reflect this as a painter,
Mhm.
it's going from those guys who go, well, I'm making these figures so that I can make these shapes. And at some point, finally, someone had to go, screw it. I'm just going to make the shapes. They're all paintings still. I'm just going to make abstract paintings because
Yeah.
that's what I really want to make, you know? And that's how I feel the digital thing. That's what I walked away from with that documentary was, there is that aspect. And so let me put that back on you, though. As a young filmmaker,
Mhm.
do you still strive to make digital film look like a traditional film out of a quality sense, or are there aspects of digital film that miss some of that you wish it retained?
I mean, the resolution. That's right now.
That's the
That's
biggest
that's
problem.
just literally just a problem that's going to be handled with time.
Yeah.
Because if I want to get really, really, truly high res images,
Mm,
I have to pay a lot of money to rent equipment to do that.
right.
The thing is, with my generation of filmmakers in general, I think, and why I feel like it kind of pisses off the older generation too,
Mm,
is a lot of these guys who went to film school and paid a lot of money to go to NYU or UCLA. Not that I'm knocking any of those institutions or
right.
anything like
Right.
that. I would have loved to have gone and done my undergrad there, but I love my alma mater. Um, it's kind of making their education kind of, I don't, not null and void, but less relevant.
Okay.
Because now to make a movie, it's kind of getting to the point where digital is kind of democratized filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you could say you wanted to make a movie in the early '90s,
Mm,
how much money would you probably have to invest if you wanted to even make a short, a couple grand, yeah,
right.
at least. I mean, not all of us are Robert Rodriguez trying to make a movie with, like
Yeah.
$1,000.
Right.
But now you can rent a 5D, a Canon 5D Mark II's DSLR, which is a pretty standard, you know, indie production camera for I think like $100 a day.
Oh, no kidding.
So it's one of those, and like if you wanted to buy one, it's a few $1,000s.
Now
You
let me
know,
ask you something. Is renting film equipment the standard way? I mean, like, is that what?
for bigger shoots, yes, you
Oh, no
always
kidding.
no one owns their own camera.
No kidding. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
once you make it, that's when you rent. That's why production budgets are so huge half the time.
That's hilarious. I mean, not hilarious. It's just that's not an aspect of it that I ever. It's just one of those things where you think that that's equip. You're working with what you own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and that's kind of, for somebody who I know you're on a different kind of art.
Right. Right.
That's kind of a weird thing, right?
Yeah, it'd be weird
Um,
for me to say that I'm renting. I mean, I guess I would rent studio space, but I to rent the computer that I use to do. You know what I mean? To do stuff at
yeah,
work or whatever.
yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that like I'm lucky. I'm somebody who owns his own equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
That because I know where to get good deals and stuff like that. But
Yeah. But
you know,
your normal crew making a movie, it's not odd at all for them to rent their equipment.
no, not at all. Like a pilot I worked on in Martha's Vineyard not too long ago. They actually I let them use my camera for a little bit of it, but like the rig, we had to rent tripods, some lighting equipment, some pieces of sound equipment.
No
You know,
kidding.
you're yeah, and this was not necessarily even a high budget thing.
Yeah. Now, does that come down to, like you and I have talked in the past
Mhm.
about like you don't want to try and travel with equipment because you can break it. It's
Yeah,
higher. So
especially if it's running.
is that also a piece of it? If you and I went to, I mean, Boston's too close because we could just drive there. But I mean,
Yeah.
if you and I were going to Florida
Yep.
to do a documentary or something, it would actually make more sense for us to not travel with the equipment, even if we owned it,
Theoretically, yes.
but to rent it somewhere else because of the threat of you hurting the equipment. Is that really
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Florida's necessarily a good example because you can still theoretically drive it down.
true?
But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to take, certain film pieces of film equipment. And the thing is with film equipment, it's big. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So you're not trying to take that on an airplane.
Right, right.
especially for checked, unless you want to pay $1 zillion for, luggage. I mean, I think, even folded up, my tripod alone's 4 feet tall.
Yeah,
Like, they're not small. And then if you're doing a box full of your lighting equipment,
right.
plus your sound equipment, plus your rigs, plus whatever,
Yeah.
and there's stuff that you're literally going to have to rent if you want it wherever you are, things like a crane arm, stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, right.
You're not bringing a crane arm onto a
You're
plane,
definitely not right.
and then you have movies that are filmed, the bigger Hollywood stuff, they're filmed in different countries.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get a bunch of electronic equipment through customs?
Right, right. Yeah, that's
No,
well, and
like,
especially if you're trying to keep from destroying it, right?
yeah.
Like data on it or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, if you're shooting film too, think of all the, it's not like you're gonna buy film when you get there,
right.
because film going through X-ray,
You're
your
gonna
film's
kill it.
dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, yeah, renting's a big, big thing, and that's where a lot of the cost comes from, and that's why for a while you didn't see indie film, like
Yeah,
really true like indie film like it's happening now.
right.
You had to have some serious money, so film was a rich kid art for a while.
So let me ask you based on that. Do you think that the indie market, and now I know my answer to this, but
Hmm.
as a filmmaker, do you think the indie market has lessened the expectation of the quality of film?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think I think especially because of the birth of YouTube and stuff, the way we watch film is different now too.
Yeah. More
And like,
disposable.
how many people do you know other than us and our immediate, people that we know who know technology? We happen to both work in tech fields too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how many people do you know who actually up the quality on YouTube videos?
Right. Right.
Everybody's watching their stuff in 480.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
for those of you, 480 is standard definition.
Yeah.
Just FYI for anybody who was
But
wondering what
but
the hell that
I mean,
was.
but just to show the lunacy of it, if you walked in and said you wanted a TV and they said, "Well, it does 480," you'd be like, "Oh, I'd never buy that."
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, yeah,
Yeah, and people who won't, spring for an HD cable package.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Or, the $3 extra or whatever it is a month for, your basic one. So it's one of those things that people don't, normal people, and it's kind of funny because side by side, the documentary as a whole kind of shows it a little bit sometimes too. It's like the only people who really kind of like will put up a stink and be like, this wasn't filmed the right way are people who make movies, or people who are
Yeah.
really into the process and stuff. Now, mind you, somebody like you will really appreciate when something's filmed at a really high res and looks really cool and that kind of stuff. You're also of the creative mindset, you
But I
know?
but I also don't. I put myself in this weird category, and
Hmm.
and for anyone watching this like that's an obvious thing because I'm rating things on the way I'm seeing them. You know what I mean? So instead of coming to the table with an expectation, I'm assuming that there's an intent behind a
Yeah.
visual look or whatever. So
Hmm.
yes, I'm in the category that if I see something super high res or super well shot lighting wise or something like that, I will sit there and go, "Oh, nice," like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it doesn't have that, it doesn't mean I won't watch it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there's plenty of films that I think are shot, that could be perceived as, "Oh my God, that looks like garbage." But if you can tell it was done with intent,
Mhm.
then that doesn't bother me either. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
But that's a little bit your art school training.
exactly.
You're
Yeah, yeah,
you're trained to look for that. That's how just our brains are wired. Both of our brains are wired now. We
exactly.
can't fix that.
Meanwhile,
Ask your mom
meanwhile,
about cinematography. Not
exactly,
that's not even a
exactly.
your mom joke, but like really when you think about it, it's like if I ask my mom, I'm like, oh, so what did you think of the shots in it? She'd be like,
I don't care.
it was a good movie.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Well, that's how like me and my wife are, and I love my wife to death, obviously,
Yeah,
but
I would hope.
she is the farthest thing from being interested in the arts in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, and she'll be the first to say it. I mean, the joke in our house is that the TV could be in black and white and in mono,
Yeah.
and
And
she wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, and
Shooting
honestly,
animals.
I believe the average person, maybe not to that extreme, but
Yeah.
in general is like that. And this goes into a whole different thing, but this is why I'm a believer that digital cinema and my generation
Yeah.
is kind of here to save film a little bit because pretty much all the young filmmakers I've had some great opportunities with some of the film festivals I've been in, especially in, when I started doing it, I got hooked onto a great college film-based film festival that I was able to network with filmmakers from literally all over the country and the world.
Yeah, it's
Shout out
awesome.
to my friend Radic and over in Europe. Like I know so many people over in Europe now who do film too.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. But, I was able to talk to a lot of my contemporaries, and pretty much we all focus story first.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, and not to continually knock James Cameron, but, it's not like Avatar. Avatar, visually great movie. I enjoyed the movie. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
And the story was okay. But, it's like you had some really, really lazy writing in Avatar.
Right. Right.
Unobtainium.
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
going to get it? I don't know. Guess what? But like, stuff like that, necessarily like and like think of how many remakes we have now
That
and
is
all
very
that stuff.
relevant. Yeah.
I think once you start to see people, from my generation starting to take over huge director roles,
Yeah.
if you really really look at the difference between like, what you're seeing in a movie theater right now versus the programming at Sundance.
Yeah.
You're looking at movies that have to make you think at Sundance. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Right.
now necessarily not popcorn flicks, and not everybody's going to want to think when they go into a movie. And I'm not knocking popcorn flicks. I love popcorn flicks. I work at a movie theater.
Right.
Like, I love popcorn flicks. But by popcorn flicks, I mean movies you can just literally watch and just eat popcorn for the whole time.
Yeah, and
But
just and but they're disposable as far
they're
as
not going to be remembered necessarily
right.
throughout all of time, unless they're doing huge box office numbers.
Right.
Now back to the whole digital conversation, and I don't know if you actually know this, but basically AMC theaters, which I am employed by AMC theaters.
Full
I have to
disclosure.
full
Yeah.
disclosure. I have to tell you guys that beforehand, but I know at least my theater, and I think all of the AMC's nationwide, at least they're really close to now, are all digital.
Yeah.
So you're not even seeing film
Anymore.
necessarily anymore unless you're going to an art house
Unless you go into an art house. That's
or
interesting.
a second run theater sometimes.
So film is already on track to become the artsy bohemian way of seeing a film.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, because you're not. Because
Pretty
I mean,
much.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
actually.
none of because
I would
most
say that.
people their TVs are total digital, right? I mean,
Hmm. You
so
can't even do off air anymore, so like
right. So you're pretty much in a realm where it's going to become a niche market to see a true film.
yeah. I mean, and that's what you're seeing a lot of art houses do now is they're able to show older movies, but they're like, "Hey, we have an original film print of it
Yeah.
or we have a film print of it. Come see it." They just did was it a Coolidge? Yeah, it was a Coolidge. They just did an original film roll of 2001.
Oh, no kidding.
They do stuff like that. You have Brattle Theater by Harvard. They do. I know they do Casablanca, an
Yeah.
original film print of Casablanca. And
Yeah.
it's sad. Like there is magic in celluloid. I will tell you. I will say that. As somebody who knows the chemical process and stuff, and even I worked as a photographer for a long time too. I know how to develop photos for real.
Right.
And there's something film captures that's still kind of magic.
Yeah.
And digital can, and I've definitely felt magic moments with digital, but digital's not there yet. But when you think about it, we're at the top of film pretty much. There's nothing really more we can do. Maybe that much more,
Yeah.
just a hair more we might be able to do that will make film cheaper to process or something like that. But with digital, our ceiling's here
Yeah.
and we're
Down
here
here. Yeah.
right now. And if it's looking like If it's looking like this and we're here right
Yeah.
now, it's gonna be real. Because realistically, like we can go infinitely up in digital resolution
Yep.
mathematically. You know, there might some physics majors probably going to be like, excuse
Yeah, yeah,
me,
yeah,
but
yeah.
theoretically,
We could
you
get
know,
out the artsy fartsy chalkboard and go over the
yes,
numbers.
we'll. If somebody would love to write that down and prove it to me, I would love to read
That'd
it
be cool. Yeah.
seriously. But you know, so theoretically, we can only go up for a very, very, very long time. You know, we are just 2K is already 2K you don't even have on TVs at home yet, and
Yeah.
2K in the filmmaker world is already done and over
I
with. You
was
know,
gonna
we're on to
say
4K.
everybody's standard on 4K right now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
You know, and you know, you're starting to see some 4K commercial TVs available for an ungodly amount of money.
Yeah, they're also huge. They're
They're giant.
also
They're
yeah,
84 inches, I think.
it's
Like
ridiculous.
if anybody's in the Metro West area, if you want to see what 4K really looks like, Jordan's Furniture has the 84-inch. I think I don't can't remember what brand it is. It might be Panasonic. They have an 84-inch 4K TV set up out front of the TV. What's it, Bob's TV or
And
whatever?
and let me ask though, what media are they playing on that that's in 4K? I mean,
Just a
Blu-ray
natural 4K.
is
I don't. I think
Blu-ray's not
they
4K,
might just
right?
have a yeah, Blu-ray's 1080i. I I don't think you can even do 2K theoretically on Blu-ray. I mean, you can burn a 2K file to a Blu-ray disc, but it has to be
Right,
a
but I
data
mean,
disc.
it's standard is
They're
not.
probably playing it off of some computer or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's got to be a digital file.
So let me ask you a question, not to detract from that, but you said
Hmm.
something that is really interesting to me, which is the art house playing the real, their niche being the celluloids and
Hmm.
being able to run a real film. And you're kind of, I mean, that's that right there, them promoting that it's a real of the age film
Yeah.
presents it as a nostalgia aspect instead of a just a film of today. So
Well,
with
yeah.
that, and here's my question I'm posing to you.
Hmm.
With that, does that mean? And to me, this is not a bad thing. I'm just saying it.
Hmm.
Does that mean that film is of an era, in 50 years, or even 20 years? Are we going to sit there and go, "Oh, that's from the film era," and
Oh,
that's
hands down.
and that's those kinds of movies, and you like the record, like the
Oh,
vinyl, like vinyl,
120%. And $5 says if I was a truly betting man and you could bet on this,
Mhm.
if there's any bookies listening in Vegas, hit me up. Um, you're gonna see a resurgence of it too. You're gonna see
like
people
vinyl.
like vinyl is today,
Yeah,
hands down. You're gonna see somebody like even you see it sometimes now, like people trying to film movies on Super 8, you know,
right.
like old film no one uses anymore or old stuff. Or you know, Polaroid. They got the Impossible Project with Polaroid closing. People are trying to revive Polaroid film. You know, the
Right, right.
instant cameras, and that's a big, big thing right now.
Yeah.
You know, so you'll see it. Film theoretically will never go away, but major, it. Think of how much less that cuts down on your cost too.
Well, I
That's
would
another thing
say,
that's they talk about it in side by side, but
yeah. Well, I would say that it as a commercial viability will go away, but it as a art form will live on for the
yes,
niche. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just like darkroom photography now. That's
Yeah.
what it's going to be treated like. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
when you see it, you're just a silver Kodak print in a gallery show. It's going to go for $1 zillion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, whereas it's like same with this now. You're going to see it in the high end art houses or film festival programming or stuff like that. And that being said, too. I'm in production for a music video right now with a local rapper. I will definitely post this once it all gets posted, and
Yeah.
we can talk about it even if we wanted to. But we're actually looking at older digital technologies to use, like old VHS tapes, that kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, yeah. All right.
To try and give it that vibe, and that kind of thing's actually happening right now in the I've seen it actually in a few music videos. Hip hop's actually very interesting when it comes to music videos and people doing really cool high art things for music videos because I feel like a lot of the high art, really cool, pushing the technology and pushing digital cinema is happening in music videos mostly right now.
Well, that's historic too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
music
that's it. Yeah, I mean
videos.
that's always where they're testing out stuff for the most
Yeah.
part. But I
Right.
mean they're doing. I've seen some. crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's a Joey Badass video. Um
Joey
yeah, that's
Badass.
that's the he's a Brooklyn-based rapper,
Okay.
part of the Beast Coast movement. He's a very good rapper, and he's got a very old school vibe. So if you're into old school hip hop,
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest, any of those kind of guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's really good. All of his beats sound old school. It's great. But
Joey Badass. We're gonna have to
yeah,
look that up.
his if you can find a copy of his video for, I think it's Waves, I think is the song.
Yeah.
They filmed it with a red. They shot it in, I think, at least 2K or 4K,
Okay.
and then they recorded it to VHS, and then re-brought the VHS footage in,
That's hilarious.
and then cut out whatever they'd want to be in high def. So the background would look like a VHS tape, and it would
Oh,
look
no
like a
kidding.
recorded music video that you did yourself of MTV, like a lot of people did in the 90s,
Yeah.
to watch again. But your main focus would be on the high def rapper.
That is awesome.
It's a really cool effect. But people are starting to do stuff like that. And I think that's also going to happen with film, and it is happening for the most part with film and film techniques like that. It's just film is really expensive.
So I'm actually looking at stills of Waves right now, and
Yeah.
you're exactly right. They have this look to them.
Yes, that it's just kind of like you're like, oh, okay, and it works.
It
Like,
does work. Yeah.
yeah.
So from an art standpoint, right?
Hmm.
Because and again, I don't want to make this a nerd conversation to this degree, but in the art world, part of what we're talking about with recycling other ways of looking at imagery
Yeah.
is this idea of what you consider source material, right? Because like in this case, he wanted a look of a 80s music
Yeah.
video,
Mhm.
so he changed up his source material look. So his influence was not real life; it was real life from his past, that kind of thing.
Yes, and I mean, like, and there have been things I've worked on that have, like, the people have asked, like, hey, can we get a film look to this?
Yeah,
That's the golden ratio for a lot of people. I feel like, especially now, it's like, oh, can we shoot digital and make it look like film? And, like, there are ways you can do it. I have certain grains I can put over for film that'll make it look like specific kinds. I got 16 millimeter grain,
yeah.
all that. But it's still looking like digital that's made to look like film.
Well, right. I
You
was
know?
just gonna say it's just frosting on it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the real thing,
Yeah, but it gives it. People want that film nostalgia.
huh?
That's the point. Yeah. That's the interesting part of that.
So
People.
is there someone you could cite? And I always put you on the spot like this, and I feel
Uh-huh.
bad about, but I don't think of it until we talk.
Yeah, exactly.
But is there someone that you could tell me of that is not a filmmaker that you like? I'm hoping
Mhm.
that is just like, screw that. I'm embracing the total digital look, and I'm just making not necessarily full films. Maybe they just do short stuff, or you know what I mean. But someone who is totally disregarding the films of the past, like the look of traditional film.
This is the easiest on the spot question you've ever asked me.
It's
David
right.
Fincher.
David. Okay, I gotta Google it right now.
David Fincher. He directed The Social Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
Oh,
and those are
okay.
his. Yeah, and this is for him. That's a recent thing, but he is basically been the guy, the director to really endorse and embrace the red cameras.
Okay.
And he has actually been personally working with Red to develop cameras
Oh, he
to
was on
make
the
its movies
documentary.
with. Yes, he
He was
is.
on that documentary. Yeah.
Mhm. He's hands down. He's the main pioneer, I feel like, for at least for directors embracing digital.
No kidding.
He really knows his stuff. David Fincher is one of those guys, from what I hear, is you just have an immense respect for him because he's a better everything than you are. If you're
Okay.
on his crew, it's one of those things like you're not going to screw up because your director could do it better. He's not one of those directors who's
He'll
just like,
catch it.
yes, feel it, do what you techies do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's one of those guys is like, are you fucking up right now? Because I will take that boom out of your hands. You
Yeah.
know?
That's great.
Yeah. No, he's a very 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 he knows his stuff up and down. He's one of those directors who will sit in an editing room and really you know
Tear it
really
up.
go nuts with it.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
the red digital cameras are some of the main big production digital cameras that they're using now.
Yeah.
Sony's got some. Sony's mainly been doing the digital projectors. That's what they're more known for now.
Okay.
I mean, Sony's still got a lot of cameras and stuff that people use, not as much as the Reds or the big really really expensive one too is the Ari Alexa. I think a rental on that for just a day is like 2 grand.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane. But the ones that cost a lot of money, like the Reds and the Aries, you can make them really look like 35
Okay.
millimeter film. You can make them really look like real production film.
Gotcha.
But
So, but Fincher
David
is,
Fincher has
yeah.
kind of been using the digital to his, kind of advantage, especially for how films are made. Because you're looking at digital's gonna change how films are made in general, just because you don't have a limit on how long your shot can be.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. So
Yeah,
in
because with
traditional film, how long is a shot?
it's what I mean, I've never shot that long with film, but there's I think 5 minutes, 7 minutes. I think that's like the longest roll of film you can feasibly do in most of these cameras.
So you literally
One
cannot,
continuous shot.
right, you cannot run a shot for more than that long.
Yeah, there is a limit. I don't know the exact number. I think they actually say it in side by side,
Oh yeah. Okay.
but there is an exact number. But with digital, you can shoot until you run out of hard drive space.
Right.
And a lot of these cameras have extra hard drives. So,
Right.
it's like it's filming to that one hard drive. You can pop out, the one you just used while it's switching onto the other hard drive and pop another hard drive in.
Right.
Wait,
So you
take it out, put it
technically
back
could
in.
just
Like,
keep going. Right.
yeah, you can really, as long as you have the hard drive space, you can keep going for as long
Yeah.
as you want.
Which right there, from an art form standpoint, really changes how you could. I mean, we've talked about Russian Ark before. How it
Yes.
was all shot in one spot, but I mean, you could actually kind of run a production more like a stage show or more like a opera or something like. I mean, which is a
Yeah,
stage
no,
show,
absolutely.
but you could actually have that feel to it where you
That like just crap's happening all around you kind of
yeah,
thing.
exactly. More of a. I mean,
Totally.
what I'm sure a person like yourself would wish reality TV was more like, where you're actually getting the, what do you lose in film that you see on the stage? You lose the person wearing themselves down through performance and you know what I mean, like there's a thing about stage acting that you can tell the person is pushing themselves to do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's also a responsive thing with the audience.
Oh yeah,
That's
very
that's
true.
the
Yep.
that's I mean that's I think one of the main things for stage is there's actual physical people, you're sharing the same air, you
Fair
know?
enough. Yeah.
But whereas film too, it's on stage you have to act a lot bigger. You have to be able to throw your emotions out to the back wall.
Yeah.
Whereas, film, you can be as subtle as you want. Like I can, do a close up of an eye twitch, if I wanted to as a director. Whereas you have to figure out a way to make that eye twitch big for
Right.
the rest of the, theater if you're doing a live stage show.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's still stuff that's not going to be exactly because of film and stuff. And whether or not people are going to use like that long a shot, you're also looking at your costs are down. Hard drives are still a lot less expensive than you know, trying to develop film. I think I heard the math for the Social Network. If they tried to get the film, if it was, I think it was all the footage they got digitally would
Hmm.
have equaled like 1 million feet in film.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, it would
Yeah.
have been ridiculous. you
Yeah.
know
Well,
whereas like I can keep 20 minutes, I can keep a full you know what, fucking, you know, almost a mile of film on this little hard drive right here. You
Right,
know,
right.
like,
Well, that was actually one of the spots in that side by side. I know we keep going back to it, but
yeah,
it's really kind of what ignited us to have this conversation. But one of the most interesting segments of it is when they were talking about 28 days later
oh yeah,
and how they were saying that
Canon
they
XLH1s too. Those are the specific cameras they used.
well, but they were talking about from a production side
Hmm.
that they could not have shut down the street in London and stuff. They were doing it between traffic bursts.
I mean, literally, they shot and ran. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
Like,
they had said that if they did that with traditional film, they would have never captured it because you had to do it from
never,
multiple
never.
angles and then on the fly, like as fast as they could.
Yep.
And they said it came out exactly how they wanted. And had they tried to do it traditionally, they would have had to rope off entire parts of London that they just would have never been able to do it.
Yeah.
And that to me is really fascinating because it kind of blows the doors open as to what you could do. The idea of setting up an illusion, it frees you up to take very small spots of time that you have a gap to do something, and
Yeah.
and be able to exploit it to that degree is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Now, talking on the other side too, I really, I will tell you up front, my bias is towards digital. I think digital is the next front. And as a filmmaker, I'm going to focus on digital and not
Yep.
film. Well,
Yep.
I would love to shoot film, but unless somebody, one of our viewers would like to donate, $100,000 for my next production,
Right.
I'm not doing film anytime soon. Um, but then you have a lot of high profile people like Nolan, Paul Thomas Anderson, even Tarantino, who almost are, as rabid as some of the digital evangelists are, who about film.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarantino, he basically suggested he was going to retire because he can't project 35 millimeter prints in American cinemas anymore. Those words came out of his mouth. Like,
Yeah, but is that a
Spielberg himself called digital projection inferior, and I think he tried to release Indiana Jones 4 on film only, which
but
would have, I mean, say what you will about Indiana Jones 4,
yeah.
but
But I mean, but is that rhetoric? Is that you're
I
talking
don't.
about a lot of guys outside of, and I think even Tarantino becomes old guard when
Yeah,
we talk about this stuff. But is
he's
that
there.
is that rhetoric as far as, hey, I've made? I mean, and this is not with any disrespect. Don't get me wrong,
Yes.
but like with I guess Tarantino would be a good example.
Hmm.
Here's a guy who made his career making his films look like films of the past with a twist of today, right?
Hmm.
With the action-packed editing and raunchiness of the expectation of today
Hmm.
with intentional stories of the past, right? They're supposed to be dime novel type stories.
Yes.
And then he has this fascination with an era gone by, with the
Hmm.
60s and stuff like that. So he capitalized on, if you ask me, he capitalized on a lot of things that he had at hand and that he had
Hmm.
a very, very definitive drive towards.
Yes.
But he's also made a lot of money doing that. So it almost seems, this is just me being a guy who's
Hmm.
made zero money doing that, right? Is no, but it almost seems like rhetoric from someone who goes, this is what I do.
Yes.
And they don't have the drive to explore the new thing
Hmm.
to that degree.
Well, they can afford to shoot what they know
That's what
too.
I'm getting at. Like
Yeah.
Spielberg, I almost disregard any comment he makes about film because he's got such a back catalog in this other way of doing it.
Yes.
You're kind of like, well, obviously he doesn't want to change. He's got
Yeah.
a whole career based on it.
And it's a little discouraging, I feel like, to young filmmakers too, because you have the greats, the people we look up to, the Nolans, the
Yeah,
Spielbergs, the Lucases, you know, trashing what we're learning off of,
but it
completely trashing it.
that's where it
Not even like
sounds
a
like
little.
But that's where it sounds like they're going to pigeonhole themselves
They are.
into the old school gust. And you know what? Now I'm going to get totally artsy fartsy on you.
Yes.
This
That's what this channel's
is,
about.
yeah, this is what happened in Impressionism.
Yes.
What you're seeing in film
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what happened with the Impressionists. Is that they came in the 1860s,
Yeah.
between the 1860s and the 1890s. Forgive me, everybody. I got cops apparently going down the street behind me. But and the Academy, which ran the salons in France.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, every filmmaker just dropped out of this, right? But
Mm-hmm.
everybody that ran that was old school, and they wanted
Mm-hmm.
it to be traditional academic painting. But the crowds and the painters, the young painters, did not give a shit. And they wanted to make, they had new technology. They had tube paints, which they had never had before. They had brushes that were cheaper than ever. And of course, all the painters were like, well, they're inferior brushes. It's inferior paint because you didn't make it yourself. And now people are like, those old guys were fucking crazy. This now, Impressionism is on every hot pad in friggin' America because they broke through that mold. And it was now those old guys running the salon were that last gasp of bad breath about the old way of doing it, and they look like douchebags because they were stopping the new guys from doing what they were trying to do.
Let's just say there's a lot of parallels that runs to film right now.
That's what I'm
Because I
saying.
believe there's an academy
Yeah.
that runs a large salon slash awards show
Yeah.
that, not doesn't necessarily
Get it.
get it.
Yeah.
When
I
you
agree.
really look at how ridiculous the Academy Awards are, and just think of like who's been nominated and who's not been nominated. Leo DiCaprio's never. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
Alan Rickman, never.
Never been really Alan Rickman?
Alan Rickman. Jonah Hill got nominated for an Oscar before Alan Rickman.
Yeah. It's zany.
Come on.
Yeah. Now is the now
And I just got blacklisted by the Academy.
yeah.
My career was
Well,
now
I don't think that's going to be your problem, to be honest. No, I mean, and that has nothing to do with you. I mean, as far as I
Yeah.
think that whole structure is self imploding as we speak. But the am I right in thinking that? And I don't know where I saw this because I am a George Lucas fan in general.
Mhm.
I like George Lucas. And I like the fact
I do
that he's
too.
that guy that goes, F everybody, I'm going to go do this. And,
Yeah.
and even while we can debate about the product in the end, I
Mhm.
like the attitude. I like the, I can't win if I'm not part of your club. Guess what? I'm not part of your club.
Yeah, exactly. He
So,
he did that.
and well, that's what I'm getting at. So is he, and that was one of the refreshing things in that side by side was Rodriguez going, hey, if big man Lucas is doing it, we're doing it because that's where it's going, right?
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
thought to myself, I'm like, wow, that is impressive because I always thought he was kind of like ostracized by the film community.
It's just by the powers that be, not necessarily his fellow directors. You know what I'm
Gotcha.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's some directors who probably think Lucas is a hack, but I'm sure there's lots of directors Lucas thinks are hacks.
Right.
But it's one of those things that when at least for the era Lucas really, really controlled, and even now, ILM is still big.
Oh,
Industrial Lights
yeah.
and Magic, that's his effects company.
Yep.
Um, he was doing pretty much like name a better special effects movie at the time than Star Wars.
Oh, I know. I gotcha.
He revolutionized that stuff, and Lucas is going to probably be remembered as one of the most important filmmakers of all time, at least when it came to visual effects and how sci-fi could be a truly viable blockbuster.
Well, let me ask you this: would you, going back to my analogy to the salons,
Mhm.
would you attribute him to being one of those guys that's also going to be remembered as one of the guys who said "screw you" to the establishment?
He's very known for anti-establishment kind of shit. Well, at
So,
least
so,
originally.
so 50 years from now, when you talk about the rebel filmmakers of the day breaking out and stuff, he's going to be one of the early grandpas
Yeah,
of "screw you" to the salon.
but still, that being said, I still think Spielberg and Coppola and the whole Brat Pack kind of belong to that group.
Oh,
No
really?
matter kind
Okay.
of what they, well, say what you will, Spielberg still, look at Jurassic Park, like, all those movies, even the early 90s stuff, Jaws,
Yeah.
Jaws, that was a very special effecty. There are a lot of things that they did.
But
You
but I
know,
mean, but
that's
Spielberg
just them
never.
kind of being not.
But
It's
but
they're a product of their times.
but let me
That's kind
ask
of
you
what I
something
have to
though.
look at it as.
My understanding though is that Spielberg, different from Lucas,
Yes,
never kind of gave the chin sign to like the Academy Awards people and stuff. Where
that's because
Lucas,
they liked him.
but what I'm getting at is like Lucas was actually out of the guild and shit, right?
Oh yeah, he left. He left.
So he wasn't even available as a person that they can deem as
Worthy,
someone they
kind of.
could give an
Yeah,
award to.
exactly.
Where Spielberg, Coppola, those guys never did that, right?
Yeah. Nope. They stayed.
Right.
But
Okay.
George will be known for kind of giving the bird
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the hardcore establishment there. But
Yeah. Do you think with digital doing what it's doing,
mhm.
do you think that the that establishment will alter itself to fit in so they stay relevant, or do you think they're just eventually going to implode and it's going to become a free for all?
I hope they try and adapt.
Okay.
But
I
I
mean,
I'm not in their heads, unfortunately.
but it's good for the industry's sake for them to stay relevant because they bring a lot of popularity to the
They
films,
they
right?
do bring a lot of popularity to the films, especially working in a movie theater during Oscar season.
Right.
They that's one of our, other than summer, like Oscars, that's the only time, we get ridiculously busy like we do during the summer.
No kidding.
Oh yeah. We actually a lot of AMC's I know do Best Picture showcase.
Oh,
So they
okay.
actually show every movie nominated for Best Picture in theaters, and they do like it as like a movie marathon.
And it's a hit.
Yeah, it's 2 days. I work over at the Premium Theater in Framingham,
Yeah, yeah.
and our tickets sell out almost in 2 days, months in advance.
No kidding. Really? For movies
Mind
that
you,
have
I only
already
have a
come
90
out.
seat. I only work at a 90-seat premium
But
dine-in theater,
now,
but
I'll give you the other side of that because me as a guy at home who
mhm,
sees on my Flickster, which is what I use to find out what's playing everywhere and everything,
yep.
is I sit there and go, "What the crap? Why is this movie out? That was out 8 months ago."
Yeah, we're doing a lot of movie companies now are doing kind of like just quiet re-releases to try and get people, during the week to really try and maximize their profits. They're doing, I know AMC right now is doing $3 night movies for stuff that's already come out. So
Really?
I think they're doing Oz this week with James Franco.
So you can go to an A not to plug AMC,
Yeah.
but I've never heard this
But
before. So
there's a lot there are a lot of like quiet deals movie theaters do. You just got to kind of pay attention.
no kidding.
Sign up for some, mailing lists for any of your, especially your local Regals or Showcases or Lowe's or whatever you have around you. And a lot of their newsletters will tell you if they have special engagements.
Yeah.
And movie theaters tend to have good special engagements, especially if you're trying to save some money.
Well, we when
Matinee
we
tickets to people. That's the best hidden secret for, well, it's not really a hidden secret. You go to a movie before a certain time on certain days for certain theaters,
yeah.
the ticket's like $6,
Yeah, okay. But
and
but
there's no one
I've
there.
but I've noticed that there's a lot of movie that my wife and I, when we were first married, we
Mhm.
would go to movies at like 11:30 in the morning or
Yes.
11, and we've noticed at least in the theaters near us, you can't see a movie now before like 12:30, 1 o'clock. You can't go to a morning movie the way you used to.
During the summer, you can.
Oh, okay.
They don't do it a lot during the winter or fall. Basically, when school's in session,
Yeah, they
that's
don't
when they
do it.
stop doing early morning movies
Oh,
for the
no
most
kidding.
part. Yeah. Mind you, my movie theater little different because I work in a dine-in premium.
Sure.
So,
It's a night thing.
we're showing our earliest movie on a weekdays 4:30,
Right, but
3:15.
it's a different reason.
Yes.
It's a dinner
But
show.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, some of the, like, I know the movies next door, and they have if you have young kids, they do summer movie camps, so it's like really
Yeah.
cheap to show older kids movies,
So
even newer kids movies.
we've totally derailed, but I got to ask you about this.
Yeah,
The last two or three, because I take my boys to the movies a lot,
absolutely.
and half of it's just to do it, and then the other half is to get them away from my wife for a couple hours, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Air conditioned, they
yeah,
have to sit still.
exactly, dude.
Mhm,
That's really
mhm.
part of it. The last two or three we've been to, they give us a book at every time we go. Have you? Do you guys do that or not?
I mean, I'm not on the other side, so I don't know.
I think it's Regal is the one that's doing it when we go in. But we've been to more than one. When I took them to Despicable Me 2.
Yes, awesome movie, by the way.
Yeah, I loved it, and the
Yeah,
boys loved it. But they gave both of my boys, and one of them's 4, so he's not going to read.
yeah,
But they gave both of my boys like a kid's book
yep.
that's like trying to be promoted or whatever. And that's happened to me like 2 or 3 times in the last
Yeah, no,
year and a
if you
half.
go to a lot of these special engagements come with free swag.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's some of the swag the movie theater employees get a lot of the time too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, it's the we get there's some cool stuff that comes through, especially if a movie's trying to promo. Especially for like the times you get the cool free swag is like midnight showings
Yeah.
or special engagements. That's when we really give out, and it's a lot of fun for the employees because we just get to throw T-shirts at customers. But
Can you get me swag for my new fave, the one that I finally went and saw another IMAX movie because of this movie. Um uh Pacific
Pacific Rim.
Rim. Yeah.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, hook me
I'm.
up.
I mean,
I have now seen that movie twice.
I know that I have a 24-foot wall
Dude, I'll take it.
drop. It's literally just hung up in the. I don't know what they're gonna do with it. I'll
I
have to ask.
totally want it.
Most movie theaters have one supervisor or manager who's the inventory guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy to be friends with if you're trying to make friends with people who work in a movie theater.
The more ridiculous, the better for Pacific Rim. If you can get me like some giant, you'd be like, Matt, I have no idea where you. Trust me, I'll find a place to put it.
Okay. I'll see what I can do for you.
Did you like that movie or not?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my god!
We didn't get it at my theater, and we've had some. I've been pretty much every weekend. I've been working. I've seen a bunch of movies. I'm probably gonna see that tonight, though.
I will not be shocked if you're not crazy about it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, so just so you know, I will be the first one if someone's watching this and going, "Oh my god, that movie was not great," you know.
Oh no! All the guys at work, everybody saw it pretty much the first. I was like the only person who didn't see it
Yeah.
the weekend it came out, and literally every guy I work with was like, "Dude, that movie was ridiculous." Like in the best way.
It is one of those movies where no one will ever claim that it's well written. So don't give me,
Yes.
it's not the greatest story of all time.
I want to
But
see giant robots fight giant monsters.
thank you. That's basically
That's
what
the only reason I would ever
And-
want to see that
and-
movie. You know what I'm
And
saying?
I'm telling you, for that aspect, it is fantastic. And I was in hog heaven watching it because I could care. I mean, I know you're a story guy, but in that situation, I could care less about the story. Just bring on the special effects. And I'll tell you, I went to it with my sister to see it at a normal place, and it was good. We loved it. I liked it.
Yeah.
Her comment was it was a Matt movie, so right there I knew she was not into it, but she understood why I liked it.
Yeah.
And then a buddy of mine said, "Hey, we're going to go see it at the IMAX in Framingham."
Oh yeah.
And oh my god, it blew me away at the IMAX. Absolutely blew me away because the seats rumbling and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, the butt kickers they have on those seats
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff.
it was
Yeah,
crazy.
no, it's definitely
So-
awesome. You got to come to a movie at my theater too, man.
I will. You know what? Right now I'm family free, so outside of my trip next week, I'll have to come out. I'll have to come
Let me
out.
know.
Yeah, I'll call you after.
We might be getting Kick Gas 2. Does that come out next week?
I don't know. I saw my first ad for that the other day.
Yeah, I think that might be coming. We have 2 guns this weekend.
I'm not. That does
Yeah,
nothing.
no,
for
I
me.
don't. We had an employee showing last night. I was just like,
Did you see the new Wolverine?
I haven't seen that one yet either.
I saw
I've
that
been
the other
I've been
day.
I've been with the girlfriend for a little while, so
Oh.
the movies I've seen recently. I saw the Way Back.
Oh yeah, how was that?
That was awesome.
Yeah, it
It's
looks good.
serious. I was expecting it to be good and maybe a little disappointed at it because the trailer looked really good,
Yeah.
and it's really, really good. And it takes place in Onset.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
Well,
which is really trippy for me
Yeah.
because my grandparents live in Buzzards Bay, and I basically grew up spending summers in Buzzards Bay and Onset.
Oh my god, I used to live in Buzzards Bay.
Oh, no shit. I didn't know that.
I did. Right after college, I moved down to Buzzards Bay because I was stationed at Otis.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was in Buzzards Bay for a little while, and then I moved to Pecasset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandparents live like not that far from Mass Maritime.
No kidding.
Yeah. Do you and like since you know the area too,
Local
so
trivia
basically
for people. Yeah.
yeah. The way back, the kid gets a job at Waterwiz.
Oh, no kidding. That's
Yep. And
hilarious.
like there's like a scene at Mark Antony's, you know, that pizza place
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
middle of Onset.
No kidding. That's
Yeah, dude,
cool.
it's pretty crazy. And I also saw the To-Do List with Aubrey Plaza.
To-do list. I don't know
Yeah,
that
that
one.
one was an indie movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Bill Hader's in it. Aubrey Plaza's in it, obviously. Donald Glover. Jack McBrayer makes a quick cameo in
I'll have to
it.
look that up.
It's pretty funny. You know, I was one of the few guys in the audience, to be fair, but
We're seeing that, or is way
it was
back.
it was
really...
a lot of fun. That might be a Redbox movie you want to watch with your
I was
wife.
gonna
Though.
say for our little segment that we're gonna constantly start putting in,
It's
like
raunchy. But,
oh really? Oh okay.
Yeah, little raunchy.
Well, I'll tell you what's on my watch list because I'm about to go on travel, so I always download
Yeah.
things to watch. So one
Legally.
is yes, one is Frankenstein. What's it called? Frankenstein's Army.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
looks like a horrible but awesomely horrible horror movie
Yeah.
about Russian troops who invade a place and the Nazis have been sewing together their dead
Oh yeah.
to fight them. It looks right up my alley.
Yeah, it's
So-
actually got like not that bad of a review on Rotten Tomatoes either. It's like at a 69%, which is pretty high for something like that.
yeah. So I'm going to give it a shot. The other one, which I don't know if you've ever seen this or heard of it, is A Field in England. And it's a indie, and they promote the director like he's a famous director, but I've never heard of him. But it was apparently released in every kind of way on the same day. So it was released on like DVD, Blu-ray, in the theaters, and on BBC4, which is their like
Yep.
way of doing things over there, all on the same day, like as one big event.
And it's about America, huh? No.
No, yeah, right,
I know.
right. No, but it looks like a kind of a cool filmed indie movie about like colonial time England type thing.
Yeah.
So I have it, and I'm gonna watch it on the plane type deal. But it looks pretty cool. I mean, the filming looks kind of neat because it looks like it was slapped together, kind of a quick production.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
No, the director of that's Ben Wheatley. I just looked it up on IMDb.
Oh, okay.
He was a big British TV director.
Oh, okay.
He did a lot of British TV. He's done a few seasons of a few different shows. He's more of an up and coming. He also did a Sightseers, which did a very good festival run, I believe.
Well, it looks like kind of like an indie horror movie almost.
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean?
it's
So,
I think that's what they're kind of.
pitching it as.
Yeah. Are we getting Ender's Game? We could be getting Ender's Game.
Oh, dude, I
That's amazing.
totally. Maybe that's the one we'll go see together because I definitely want to see. Have you ever read the book?
Oh my god, I read the book when I was like the perfect age for it too. I read it
So-
like when I was like 11.
That's a great
It's
story.
yo yeah.
Maybe
And I
that's
think
the
I
one
think
we'll
the
do.
casting's just tight on that. Ben Kingsley,
Yeah.
Harrison Ford, like, and
Yep.
Viola Davis is in it too, and I like her
I know.
a
It looks
lot.
pretty sick. It looks pretty sick. The only thing that turns me off is them making a big deal about the homo stuff. You know, not that I have any kind of issues like that or anything like that, but you know what? If a guy in a book is writing a certain way, just whatever. You know what I mean? And I think
I think it's going to just be such a mute point, anyways.
Oh yeah, well,
no.
and even
Yeah,
the
Ender's Game's
comment-
not coming out till November.
Even the comments that Harrison Ford made were kind of like, whatever. Like we don't have to
Yeah.
make a big deal out of it,
Yeah, exactly.
So you can enjoy the story anyways, type deal.
Yeah.
So, well, we are over our hour, but
Yes, we
but
are.
very entertaining,
Yes.
So good deal. Any fleeting shots on digital versus film? I mean,
Don't be scared of digital if you hear it for some reason. Honestly, most people are not going to recognize the difference.
yeah,
But it's a very exciting time to be a filmmaker because everything's changing and it's leveling the playing field. So it's one of those things that, to get into film now, you don't have to be a rich kid or, put yourself into such massive debt.
which makes
that
it exciting.
which makes it very exciting because you're going to hear voices you necessarily wouldn't have heard,
Well, and people that are willing to take chances.
and people that are definitely willing to take chances.
Yeah.
You know, the voice aspect and the stories that are going to be told by all these different filmmakers now too is gonna it's real how movies are made, what movies are about, everything like that's gonna change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
no, it's exciting. It's really
we're right
exciting.
at the cusp, and it's gonna just keep picking up.
Yep.
It's gonna snowball.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Well, great show. Thanks. Until
Thank you,
next
Matt.
time. Yep. I'll talk to you later.
Later.